Hey, gun people. I don't know who sent me this. Somebody sent me this guy's one-man room clearing. It's UF Pro, I think is his channel. I think it's some YouTube code. You can't promote someone's other channel. Look, if somebody sends me something from a person, I don't know this guy. I haven't watched. I think this might be the second time I watched it, or I might have watched one other video. But I can get a feel from somebody by watching a couple videos. This guy seems like he knows what he's doing. And again, I think YouTube code is you can't promote somebody else's vehicle. You run your users away, and then they'll go watch them, and they won't spend time. Look, I'm just trying to pass on information here. I like the guy. If you don't like him, if he's a piece of crap, you know, I don't like Asp. I know a lot of guys out there like him, think he's great. I think he gives out bad information, poor information. He has no experience, and he just repeats shit. So when somebody's repeating something they're told, I call that a sheep. Plus, he's a left wing, so I don't like him, and I don't promote him. This guy seems like he knows what he's talking about. He gets good principles. I'm going to go over this video as one room clearing, kind of talk about things that I see that I was taught. Maybe they're teaching it different now. Maybe this is advanced. But to me, tactics and principles on movement normally don't change a whole bunch. It's the same thing. So here he's kind of describing a slicing a pie movement. I don't know if he uses that term. But let's go ahead and take a look at this, and then I'll give you my opinion on what I agree and don't agree.
Gun and eyes are synchronized with the threshold. I will snap to 90 degrees. I will continue to slice, continue to slice. I will attack the...
Okay, so I'm not a big fan of moving the gun like he is. I think he calls it compressing or something, where he puts the stock kind of over his shoulder and he's got it pointed down because he don't want to telegraph. I would rather move farther away from the door and keep my gun pointed. Now, that could be a personal preference. Somebody else could say that's not good. You know, if you got experience and could tell me why it's better to have to bring your gun up and shoot versus having it where your eyes are looking, well, that's fine. But all my tactics and training and everything I taught, I stay with the gun. I don't want to be looking other directions that my gun isn't pointed. That's usually not sound tactics. I'm not saying there's not exceptions, but again, I'm just going to point out things that I agree with and don't agree with.
Corner, as soon as I decided it's enough for me, and as soon as I will attack the corner, I will give it.
I don't like this. He's looking to the back. You can't clear corners when you're slicing a pie. So until you enter a room, you can't clear. And so by entering and keeping his eyes straight, he's kind of accepting the danger of one person, which is why I don't like entering a room with one person. If you need to clear a room with one person, obviously he's doing it with a gun and moving. I would rather be more, this is called a little bit more dynamic. Not really. Dynamic is attacking a room and domination. Flashbang, yelling, screaming, get out, and you mass the room with a lot of people. That's what's traditionally called a dynamic entry. A deliberate entry is more slower. It's very methodical. You're not in time. And you use mirrors. And you would never go in this room without, on this side, I'm going to slide a mirror in here and look what's in his corner. Or I'm going to slide a mirror here and look what's in his corner. That way you're not looking back. Now, when you're clearing a room by yourself, are you going to be mirroring? Probably not. But mirroring's a great technique if you have time, especially if you're by yourself. But it's a very good, deliberate, slow, safe way to clear a room before you make entry. There's always can be threats under a bed, in a closet, in a closed door. But you at least want to clear the areas that you're walking into you get ambushed from right out in the open.
Quick check to the back to make sure that everything is fine. Or in this case, I have to deal with the door, and so on and so on. We talked about different types of room shapes in CQB. We talked about different type of entry angles. Now that you're aware about the danger and you're aware about the terrain that we have in CQB and that there is a lot of geometry into it, I want to talk really quick about the angle. Into the team level tactics, we start with the one-man tactics, okay?
Okay, so a lot of these guys have their face covered. They probably work for different agencies. I thought I saw an SAS patch, a sword. Who Dares Win, I think, is their logo. We did some training with them in SAC before. I think we named a SWAT comp one time after them. But so I don't know if these guys are SAS, if they're all SAS, if they're local police. Again, their faces are covered. I think because he's videotaping, I don't know if they would normally cover him, but I'm not a big fan of covering face mask, and I've told people that, but it is what it is.
Which means the individual working alone. Now, I know in the military and in the police, we always say there is no chance that you will work alone, right? It's always like you're working with someone or with a bigger team, you will never work alone. However, in reality, there will be situations which you will have to work alone.
I agree. Ideally, you don't want to try and take on known threats by yourself. But there's a lot of situations where you ain't got help. But normally, if you're by yourself, shit hit the fan, you engage in a firefight, and you're either trying to disengage or you're trying to take out the threat. Clearing rooms, I think you could probably wait for cover. There's not an emergency to do that. But there could be a situation. Who knows? There's a kid crying, you got to get to it. They're alone, so you got to rush through. I don't even know if I would clear rooms in a situation like that. I think I'd just take 2 or 3 guys and go cover the doors as we go by. Let's haul ass straight to the room. We're going to grab the kid, and we're going to haul ass out. If you really need to get a person out because of a bomb threat or something was going on or danger. Ideally, yeah, you don't want to run by uncleared rooms, but sometimes it's better. When you go into live shootings in schools, you pass a lot of uncleared area. You get in the hallway and you start going. You don't necessarily clear every room. You head to where you hear the shooting. You head to where you hear the women or the people or kids or the students screaming. You head to the area that is a clue where your shooter's at. You don't necessarily clear each room. It slows you down, and if there's an active shooter, he can shoot a lot of people while you're clearing rooms. But, and that's a little off topic, I digress, but I'm just kind of letting you know where my mind kind of flies.
Can someone give me maybe an example? What do you think?
Maybe you get sucked into room structures.
For example, for example, I'm clearing a room and I'm with my entire team and we're dealing with civilians, which is, it adds to the difficulty of situations. And then someone recognizes, oh, well, I got that small door over there that is threatening my team, but no one is addressing it because we missed it. So in these small moments of time and place, you'll see people clearing small fractions of structures alone. Okay, and this is why it's important to understand how can I do it alone and efficiently.
Now, from a cop perspective, if we go in a room, we usually enter 2 people. Well, my team did when we entered, because we're doing probation, parole searches, or checking for warrants. When we enter a room, 2 of us would enter. We would scan the entire area to make sure there's nothing in our plain view. And then we'd do what's kind of called a secondary, more specific clearing. And we would check any place somebody could be hidden, under the bed. One guy may be opening a door, etc. It depends on the situation. Ideally, if you've got a door, a room, or a closet where there could be someone else, and you've got a second guy, you're going to clear the exterior of the room first, and then you're going to have one guy cover while you open the door. Ideally. So I don't really see where you'd have to be going clearing doors. Where he said addressing a threat, you've got a team, you start getting civilians, you take 3 people down, you have to start cuffing, etc. If the room isn't clear, you can just stage. Just hold the room. Have somebody hold a gun on the door, and have one person hold a gun on them and wait till you get more team members. Obviously, it doesn't always work that way, but those are just options and things that can happen or things you can adjust.
Or for example, in a situation where you have a disconnection, you lost the rest of your team. Or in moments when you are injured, you're behind, and now you have to work alone because your partner just got killed. Okay, so there are many situations where you have to work alone. Okay, so right now you will get that concept. How can I work alone? And in our system, that concept, that this one-man room clearing, is fitting perfectly into the 2-man, 3-man, and 4-man, because in the end, the appointment work in different contexts is fairly the same. We will work only on one room with the open. Okay. In the beginning, a little bit of a hard time to understand all of the numbers and angles in play. And at some point, my team leader came and he took this measurement tool and he was slapping it on a box-shaped sketch on a wall. Now, from the moment that he did it, there was a set of angles which was visible for me. Which what you can see and not what can see you. In other words, imagine that in every one, meaning if I'm gonna run through the door and I'm standing here, I am committing myself to a set of angles which I cannot handle equally. The problem is, however, is that if that angle, not only in terms of what I can control in different positioning.
And I'll put a link, if I can remember. If not, you can look it up, UF Pro. But let me get to this room clearing.
All right, let's break down these angles. All right, so the first angle that we have is the very first exposure, and that is what we call the narrow angle. It may varies in...
Okay, so this is basically slicing the pie. You're moving down a wall, and you're immediately, anytime you can get any view of the room, you start getting that angle of view. Again, you can't see the corner, but then you're going to slowly, as you move forward, this angle is going to open up, and it's going to give you more until you get right here. And when you're right here, you should be able to clear this entire area.
In your size or into the room. Narrow angle, very, very fixing here, and I need angle is basically this. As soon as I'm approaching the door, and let's say I'm just walking normally, at some point, of course, when the door is open, I will see a very narrow, a very thin exposure into the room. In this case, I can see the hinges of the door, and I can see slightly beyond the door, and that already allows me to understand that 1, my exposure starts, 2, I can already start cheating the angles and look what's happening inside that very beginning. To do in the narrow angle is to stop, bring the gun down, breathe, look to the back, and look back to the door. What basically we want individuals to do is to do a quick orientation check. 1.
Almost all tactics involve make sure you know where you're at, where you retreat, where you can get back to, where your next position of cover's at, etc. That's just situational awareness is what he's talking about here.
Possibility of a threat. And second, I'm able to do a quick back check me whatsoever. So for example, and so on and so on. I'm shifting my legs from here all the way to the wall. So my hips are going to the wall. The reason for that is as following. 1, better exposure management. 2, more cover or actually concealment. And 2, I am setting my body into a synchronization with the threshold. Fit is going to point to the threshold. My gun will point to the threshold, and my eyes will point to the threshold. 1 line of exposure. From here, it will be much more easy.
Okay, so the key point here is, the best way to do this is put a guy in a room and tell him to yell and let you know the first time he sees you. So he's just staring at the door like a bad guy, and let's see what he sees first. What he should see is pretty much you pointing his gun at him first. If you keep this line, keep this elbow tucked in, keep that gun in sight right along here, keep that foot not stepping out telegraphing, and have a guy inside, and as soon as he says, I see you, you freeze, and then he tells you what he sees. And that's a good way to see how well you're exposing yourself on a door. He's explaining it here. I like having a guy from the inside saying, I see you. I see the barrel. I see your elbow. I see your foot. And if he sees one of those positions first, then you adjust your body to where he can't see it, and you realize how you have to stand. Now, this puts you in a usually not a good, solid foundation stance that we normally teach for people. We want you to have a good, solid stance, squatting down in case you had to fire, in case you get shot, you don't get knocked over easy, you can't get knocked down. And this type of room clearing, you kind of give that up. And that's why tactics is always fluid. You kind of have to adjust on the fly.
Easier for me to handle the exposure and mobility. Go on that angle, 45 degrees, and just slide here towards this angle, right here. Can you see my fit? Good.
Oh, I didn't even know we did this. That's good. That's basically what I was saying, have somebody inside, but I would have him in the narrow point. He's got him in a straight room, but that's okay. As long as you're clearing and slicing the pie and slowly coming around, nothing should telegraph.
If I will train guys to slice like this, if you will recognize, as I'm slicing, that leg is already coming faster into the light, correct? Now, watch this. If I'm changing the fit, put that light again, I'm out of that line. Not only this, it's much more easier to
So, this is what I was talking about being off balance. He's not a really good shooting position. His weight's all on this inside foot because he's leaning over on top of it. So, you know, the people that don't understand, who's never done this, they'll be like, oh man, that's a horrible shooting stance. If you had to shoot, you need to be centered and squatting. And again, you have to give up something to get something. So you give up stance to get concealment so you don't, what did he call it? Concealment management or something? You give up a good shooting stance in order to gain concealment and maybe surprise and maybe secrecy in clearing the room. Because what you don't understand is when you're coming around, you may see his foot first, and then you can back up and you know it's occupied, and then you need to learn how to deal with it that way.
Manage this exposure, and furthermore, I don't need to focus on it too much because my feet right now are preparing, and above all, and the most important, I can bail much faster from here if something happens. That angle. Not only concealment in the end, okay? Because now you can see me, now you can't see me. Okay? Make sense? Good. Make sense? Perfect.
I wanted to go over his flicking. There it is.
I can move faster, and
the way he kind of flicks and throws his gun off thing there, I'm not a big fan of that. It looks cool, and it may be taught, and it may be for his position, but if I'm jumping back and I'm taking fire or something, kind of worrying about flicking the gun and the butt up, I'm not a fan of that. I haven't taught, I never taught it. I've never been taught that. I haven't used it or trained it. Maybe somebody will say, oh man, that's a great technique, you should try it. I don't know.
And above all, and the most important, I can bail much faster from here if something happens. Make sense? Perfect. Okay, now angle to the back, everything is fine. Too much. Over here, it's pointing to the thread, okay? Okay, and from here I'm starting to work and work.
Okay, and he keeps the gun down, he says, because he doesn't want to telegraph. If you move further away where these guys are standing, he wouldn't need to keep his gun down. Hell, I'm already 16 minutes. It's a 9-minute video. So if you want to go watch it, his video is 26 minutes. I forgot the other one that I watched, but it was pretty good. He was doing some team movement, left and right, and to watch them. I'll do a video on that one because there were some things that I saw that, again, I'm not saying this guy, I know there's going to have some idiot here. You're trying to, this guy's a operator and Navy SEAL, and he's an internet YouTube SEAL. And look, the guy looks like he's got some experience. He did a really good one on where a team member shot the back of his partner's shield and then shot his partner, I think, in the leg. And they actually have a video of it. And the guy said, no, I didn't shoot the target. I actually hit the bad guy. So if I can find that, that was a pretty good little video. But anyway, I think the guy's pretty credible. He's got some good tips. If you want to go watch it, you're not going to become proficient. What comes proficient is doing what these guys are doing. Sitting in buildings all day for a week at a time, doing the same thing over and over, developing muscle memory, having people inside, getting surprised, having people throw, in the middle of your stacking up and talking, a trash can comes out or a flashbang comes out. Those are the things that will really get you trained. But watching a video, at least having a concept, will give you things to think about in case you had to do it. So this guy gets my okay endorsement. Again, I'll show his video again. UF Pro Guide to One-Man Clearing. All right? And we'll end that there. Hopefully you got something out of it.